In 1984, Suzuki built a bike that changed motorcycling forever. 20 years later, it became the internet's favorite joke. Its name is Gixxer. The GSXR created the Supersport category. It dominated racing for 2 decades. Track riders bought them on Saturday and won club races on Sunday. This wasn't marketing hype. This was a race bike with lights that actually delivered. Today, Gixxer means something completely different. It's shorthand for everything wrong with motorcycle culture. Reckless riding, squid behavior, bikes wrapped around guardrails. But here's what nobody talks about. The bike didn't change. The riders did. This is how the most revolutionary superbike ever built became the most hated motorcycle on the internet. The motorcycle world in 1984 gave you 2 terrible choices. Buy an actual race bike that cost a fortune, broke constantly, and could not be ridden on the street, or settle for a street bike that looked fast but could not back it up when the flag dropped. Suzuki looked at this and said, "Hold our sake." They took their XR41 endurance racer and asked one question: what if we made this affordable? Not comfortable, not beginner-friendly, not practical, just affordable. Enter Atsuo Yokuchi, Suzuki's chief engineer, the guy who would change everything. Most companies facing pressure take the safe route. They build heavier bikes, add comfort features, play it conservative. Yokuchi went the opposite direction. He wanted Suzuki to go all in on something radical. He knew that to beat Honda and Yamaha, Suzuki could not just build a better bike. They needed to change the game completely. So he started what became known as the blue paint study. Suzuki engineers took apart a motorcycle and painted every component. They painted components blue if they never broke, and red if they caused problems. When they finished, almost everything was blue. Yokuchi looked at all that blue paint and told management they had been building the bike too well. Almost nothing broke, and he considered that wasteful. The target he set was insane. He targeted 100 horsepower from a 750 cubic centimeter engine and a 20% weight cut. Most sport bikes in the 80s weighed around 480 pounds. Yokuchi wanted it to weigh 380 pounds. What they delivered was automotive heresy: an aluminum frame when everyone used steel, an oil-cooled engine when everyone went liquid-cooled or stayed air-cooled, an aggressive riding position that screamed, "This is not your commuter bike." The numbers were ridiculous: 100 horsepower when most bikes barely hit 80, just 394 pounds dry. That is lighter than today's beginner bikes with 3 times the power. Management was not sure there was even a market for it. They thought Yokuchi was chasing a fantasy, building a bike for riders who did not exist. Yokuchi knew they were wrong. He had been listening to the loudest riders, the ones yelling for a race bike with lights, the ones who wanted genuine performance without needing a factory contract. And he delivered something nobody expected. This was not some fragile exotic that only worked under a factory tent. The oil-cooled engine was bulletproof. The frame was balanced enough that club racers could corner hard without pro skills. The riding position let you ride for hours. The whole package was simple enough to work on with basic tools. Racing wins came immediately. 1985, the Le Mans 24-hour race delivered a stunning 1-2 finish. Isle of Man TT victory. People were buying these bikes on Saturday and winning club races on Sunday, right off the showroom floor. Riders traveled across the country with their new GSXRs. They showed up at unknown tracks and beat locals who had been racing for years. Before 1985, universal Japanese motorcycles ruled the streets and were commonly modified for racing. After 1985, everything changed. Suzuki had created a new category, the Supersport, purpose-built performance that did not require a second mortgage. Yokuchi had figured out something much more valuable than just building a fast bike. He had made speed accessible to everyone. For the first time in motorcycle history, real race-winning performance was not locked behind a huge price tag or factory connections. The barrier to entry dropped from impossible to merely difficult. That accessibility would make the GSXR legendary. It would also become its greatest curse. The engineering was radical. The racing results were immediate. 1985 was not just a good year, it was a statement. The Le Mans 24-hour 1-2 finish and the Isle of Man TT victory were not flukes. This was Suzuki proving the GSXR concept worked exactly as Yokouchi promised. What made it revolutionary was that those wins did not require factory support or professional tuning. Club racers were showing up with stock bikes and winning. The evolution kept coming. 1986 brought the GSXR 1100. More stability, better handling. Built so a novice rider could keep their line without losing the front end. This was the bike that proved the formula scaled. Then 1988 dropped the Slingshot 750. The Gixxer that earned its nickname. It breathed harder, pulled faster, became the weapon of choice for riders who wanted to dominate their local tracks. By 1996, the SR arrived carrying Kevin Schwantz's World Championship DNA. Lighter, sharper, built with one purpose, winning. Then Matt Mladen climbed on a Gixxer in 1999 and never looked back. 7 AMA titles. Not 1, not 2, 7. This was not luck, this was pure dominance. Mladen proved something crucial. The bike worked, but talent mattered more than technology. 2005 became the peak. Mladen's 6th crown. Troy Corser's 2nd World Superbike title. Suzuki's endurance win, all in the same year. For 2 decades, the GSXR was not just competing, it was the standard everyone else chased. Here is what riders who actually know motorcycles understand. A well-prepped 2005 GSXR 1000 still beats riders on bikes costing twice as much. Bikes packed with electronics and modern technology. Why? Because physics does not care about your traction control system. Speed does not read spec sheets. Talent matters more than technology. The 2005 GSXR 1000 made 185 horsepower. It weighed 374 pounds wet. It hit 180 miles per hour. That is supercar performance for $10,000. Performance that embarrassed machines costing 10 times more. Track day veterans know this reality. Show up with a 10-year-old Gixxer running a proper suspension setup and decent tires, and you will run faster lap times than half the riders on brand new machines. It is not the bike, it is the rider. That phrase was basically made for GSXR owners. But while Suzuki perfected their formula, something else was happening. The same qualities that made serious riders love these bikes started attracting attention from people who had no business on 185 horsepower. The racing world respected the GSXR. The engineering community understood what Suzuki had accomplished. Track organizations welcomed them because they knew the bikes were capable and reliable, but success created vulnerability. By keeping the design consistent and prices low, Suzuki made the GSXR common. What was special in 1985 became ordinary by 2005. By then, Suzuki had sold over 700,000 GSXRs worldwide. By 2010, over 1 million total. That massive production run meant parts were cheap. Knowledge was everywhere. The barrier to entry kept dropping. The same honesty that serious riders loved, no electronic interference, pure mechanical feedback, demand for actual skill, started looking like flaws to buyers chasing the latest electronics and aggressive styling. Competitors were redesigning completely every year. Suzuki improved what worked. That conservative approach kept prices low and reliability high, but it made the bikes look boring compared to constantly evolving rivals. The transformation from hero to villain did not happen overnight. And it was not because Suzuki changed their formula. The GSXR remained exactly what it always was, an honest, capable, affordable superbike. What changed was who was buying them and what those buyers were doing with 185 horsepower. While other manufacturers redesigned their bikes completely every year, Suzuki played a different game. If it worked, make it better. Do not start over. Improve what you already have. Every new GSXR got a better engine, better frame, better components. but the core philosophy stayed the same. This approach had massive advantages. The aftermarket exploded. Companies made parts for GSXRs because they knew those parts would work for years. Riders could upgrade suspension, exhaust, brakes, all with proven components that thousands of other riders had already tested. This kept prices incredibly low. By the mid-2000s, you could buy a GSXR 1000 for around $10,000. That bought you 185 horsepower and 180 miles per hour capability. Performance that destroyed supercars costing 10 times more. Track riders showed up with 10-year-old bikes running faster lap times than guys on brand new machines. The engineering was that good. The fundamentals were that solid. But here is where things get complicated. By keeping prices low and production high, GSXRs became everywhere. What used to be special became ordinary. The bike that revolutionized motorcycling in 1985 was just another Supersport by 2005. Suzuki's conservative styling did not help. While competitors were pushing aggressive designs and radical fairings, the GSXR kept its functional, purposeful look. Serious riders appreciated the aerodynamics and wind protection. Everyone else called it boring. Then there is the electronic situation, or lack of it. Suzuki stayed committed to mechanical excellence. They refined engine response, perfected chassis geometry, dialed in suspension, but they were slow to adopt traction control, riding modes, and electronic assists. The thinking made sense. Electronics mask problems. They let mediocre riders go faster than their skill level supports. Suzuki wanted riders to learn actual control, develop real throttle discipline, understand weight transfer. That philosophy worked great for experienced riders. Track day veterans loved the honest feedback. You knew exactly what the bike was doing because nothing was intervening between your inputs and the machine's response. But for younger riders buying their first Supersport, that honesty became dangerous. No safety net, no electronic buffer between bad decisions and consequences. The same qualities that made the GSXR brilliant for skilled riders made it unforgiving for inexperienced ones. And guess who could afford a $6,000 used Gixxer? Young riders with more ambition than skill. Affordable price plus accessible performance equals exactly the wrong kind of attention. The simplicity that made GSXRs easy to maintain also made them easy to modify stupidly. Want to gear it down for easier wheelies? Cheap sprockets. Want to remove fairings for stunt practice? Simple mounting system. Want to tune the engine? Massive aftermarket support and freely shared knowledge. Every advantage became a liability. The reliability meant these bikes survived abuse that would destroy other machines. The aftermarket meant modifications were cheap and well documented. The simplicity meant anyone with basic tools could make dangerous changes. By 2005, the GSXR occupied a strange position. Track day communities respected them. Racing organizations welcomed them. Experienced riders understood their capabilities, but in the broader culture, they were becoming something else entirely. The bike was showing up in stunt videos. The machine became associated with reckless riding. The Supersport was being flagged by insurance companies. The early 2000s created a perfect storm. Affordable Supersport performance met inexperienced riders and social media. What happened next would transform the GSXR's reputation completely. Street stunting exploded in the early 2000s. Wheelie competitions, burnout contests, high-speed highway runs, and one bike showed up more than any other, the Gixxer. The logic was simple. If you are learning stunts with limited funds, you do not buy a $15,000 Ducati you might drop. You buy a $6,000 Gixxer you can afford to replace. The bike's simplicity made it perfect for this. Want to gear it down for easier wheelies? Sprockets were cheap and the swap took an hour. Want to remove fairings for stunt practice? The mounting system was straightforward. Want to tune the engine? The aftermarket was massive and knowledge was freely shared across forums. Stunting requires genuine skill, balance, throttle control, understanding weight transfer. The problem was not the skill level. The problem was context. Street stunting happens in public spaces. highway wheelies at 100 miles per hour, burnouts in parking lots, high-speed runs through residential areas. Performance that looked heroic on closed racetracks looked reckless on public roads where families were driving. Then the internet changed everything. Before social media, a local stunt session might get witnessed by dozens of people, maybe 100 if word spread. Now a single phone video could reach millions worldwide in hours. The feedback loop was devastating. Viral videos inspired exactly the riders serious motorcyclists wished would disappear. Young guys seeing wheelie compilations getting millions of views did not think about the danger, they thought about the attention. Ghost Rider became legendary. The infamous Swedish rider filming helmet cam footage of 200+ miles per hour highway runs. Multiple videos, multiple bikes, but the GSXR appeared prominently throughout the series. Those videos were not just popular, they were cultural phenomena. Millions of views and endless discussion, the kind of content that defined an era of motorcycle culture online. Other viral sensations followed: police chase compilations, wheelie montages set to music, crash footage showing exactly what happens when skill does not match ambition. And in almost every frame, that distinctive angular Gixxer headlight was unmistakable. The industry's response was telling. Sales remained strong, the bikes still moved off showroom floors, but the cultural conversation shifted hard. Motorcycle journalists started making jokes about Gixxer Bro track day organizations, reported seeing fewer GSXRs as owners worried about the stigma. Other manufacturers desperately tried distancing their bikes from stunt culture. The contrast with other Suzuki models was revealing. When the Hayabusa appeared in content, it got treated with respect. The Busa was seen as a mature rider's bike, a tool for serious speed requiring serious skill. But the Gixxer, despite often being more capable on track, was increasingly seen as juvenile, the bike for kids who did not know better. Meanwhile, every manufacturer was repositioning. Kawasaki's Ninja became the sensible choice. Yamaha's R series looked refined and sophisticated. Honda's CBR seemed mature and responsible. The GSXR, despite often outperforming these rivals in actual testing, was increasingly seen as the option for people making bad decisions. Social media's echo chambers amplified everything. Watch one Gixxer Squid compilation, and the algorithm shows you dozens more. Engage with Gixxer memes, and you see endless variations. Platform economics rewarded negative content. Some owners reacted by embracing the stereotype. Gixxer Bro became a badge of honor. Psychologically understandable if you are stereotyped anyway, own it. But this reinforced the exact image that was destroying the bike's reputation. By the mid-2000s, the transformation was complete. Internet culture had created a villain that existed primarily in perception rather than mechanical reality. The bike that created the modern Supersport category was now primarily known as internet comic relief. The cruelest irony was that many people mocking Gixxers had never ridden one. They were responding to cultural image, not actual characteristics. So how did a legitimate superbike with decades of racing pedigree become the internet's favorite punchline? The answer lies in how attention economies actually work. The more Gixxers sold, the more widely they got used for everything: brilliant track performances, responsible commuting, and catastrophically bad decisions. But here's the cruel reality of viral culture. Excellence does not spread. Failure goes viral. A perfect lap time might impress dozens of people at a track day, maybe a few hundred if someone posts it to a racing forum. A spectacular crash or outrageous wheelie gets viewed by millions. Internet attention is fundamentally biased toward drama, conflict, and spectacle. Competence is invisible, disaster is entertainment. This created devastating selection bias for the GSXR. For every responsible owner commuting quietly to work, compilation videos of crashes, fails, and police chases racked up millions of views. The quiet majority was invisible. The dramatic minority defined the entire category. Memes accelerated everything. 20 years of racing history were transformed into repeatable jokes. The distinctive angular headlight became a punchline. Affordable pricing was treated as evidence of poor judgment rather than smart engineering. Popularity became proof of mediocrity rather than excellence. Comedy creators made it worse. The Gixxer Bro character became a recurring archetype across dozens of popular channels. Young, reckless, overconfident, underskilled, wearing shorts and a tank top at 100 miles per hour. That character was not entirely fictional. Those riders existed, but they represented a tiny fraction of actual GSXR owners. The meme made them seem like the majority. Professional reviewers faced an impossible situation. They praised Gixxers for capability, value, and reliability in their technical reviews, then immediately acknowledged the cultural baggage in the comments section. The bike's reputation became impossible to separate from the review. Technical criticisms gave the stereotype credibility. Suzuki's conservative styling, slower adoption of electronics, and emphasis on function over form became anchor points critics used for jokes. The internet amplified statistical realities into caricature. Yes, younger riders on Supersport bikes had higher accident rates. Yes, GSXRs were popular with that demographic. But meme culture turned correlation into causation. The affordable superbike that democratized performance became the cheap bike for people who did not know better. Meanwhile, competitors distanced themselves from the controversy. Marketing teams worked overtime. Kawasaki's Ninja was positioned as the sensible choice for riders who had done their research. Yamaha's R-Series looked refined and sophisticated in promotional materials. Honda's CBR seemed mature and responsible. The GSXR, despite often outperforming these rivals in actual testing, was increasingly positioned as the option for riders making poor life choices. Social media echo chambers made escape impossible. Watch one Squid compilation, and the algorithm assumes you want more. See dozens more. Engage with one Gixxer meme, and you see endless variations. Platform economics rewarded negative content because negative content generated engagement. Financial incentives for content creators made everything worse. Drama generates views. Views generate revenue. A video titled "Why the GSXR is Actually Great" might get 50,000 views. A video titled "Gixxer Bro's Crashing" compilation gets 2 million. Professional racing coverage, where GSXRs continued excelling, became irrelevant to public perception. Track day communities respected the bikes because they saw actual performance, but online culture defined them through viral failures. By 2010, the transformation was complete. Search for the word Gixxer online, and you would find memes and crash compilations before serious reviews or racing coverage. The bike that created the modern supersport category was now primarily known as internet comic relief. The cruelest irony? Many people mocking Gixxers had never ridden one. They had never felt the throttle response, never experienced the chassis balance, never understood why track day veterans still chose them. They were responding to cultural image, not mechanical reality. The bike's reputation had become divorced from its actual characteristics. Internet culture had created a villain that existed primarily in perception rather than fact. So what is the real lesson here? Track day communities still respect Gixxers because physics does not care about internet memes. Show up at any serious track organization, and you will see them everywhere. Fast riders on well-sorted GSXRs running lap times that embarrass riders on bikes costing twice as much. The real problem was never the bike. It was accessible performance, meeting inexperienced riders, and then social media amplification. Insurance companies responded to the statistics. Young riders on supersports became uninsurable in some markets. Premiums doubled or tripled. Some companies flat out refused coverage for riders under 25 on leader bikes. Track organizations implemented experience requirements that disproportionately affected GSXR owners. Some required proof of training courses, others mandated intermediate group placement regardless of claimed skill level. The cultural baggage created real-world barriers. Here's what you need to understand if you are considering one. A used Gixxer from the golden era, 2001 to 2010, offers unmatched value and performance per dollar. The 2005 GSXR 1000 remains one of the best values in motorcycling. Bulletproof engine, proven chassis, massive aftermarket support. The engineering brilliance never changed. The capability never diminished. The reliability never faltered. But you are not just buying a bike. You are buying into the Gixxer Bro stereotype you will have to actively work against. Every time you pull into a gas station, every interaction with other riders, every conversation about what you ride. The path forward requires intention. Track training is not optional, it is mandatory. Proper gear is not negotiable. Respecting the machine's capabilities is not a suggestion. This is about responsibility. Yokuchi built a race bike with lights. He designed it for riders who understood what 185 horsepower demanded. Riders who respected physics. Riders who knew that talent matters more than technology. What you do with that capability is on you. The bike will let you be brilliant. It will also let you be catastrophically stupid. There is no electronic safety net catching bad decisions. The takeaway is not that GSXRs are dangerous. The takeaway is that accessible performance without mandatory training creates predictable outcomes. Suzuki gave riders exactly what they asked for: uncompromised capability at an affordable price. The internet turned that into a punchline. But the joke was never about the engineering. It was about the riders who did not respect what they were sitting on. The GSXR created the Supersport category and dominated for 2 decades. Then the internet turned it into a punchline. The bike didn't change. The culture did. Drop a comment. Which GSXR era do you respect most? Subscribe for more stories the internet got wrong.